If you look in surveys and people today, people are realizing there's a problem here. Gary Chapman, my wife had us listen to a CD just a couple weekends ago. He has a book called The 5 Love Languages. And one of their things I remember from that, it says the average sensual relationship lasts about 2 years. According to Bumpus and Liu in 1998, in a survey that's titled Cohabiting Couples Survey, the median duration of a cohabitation is 1.3 years. Van Goten in 2005 concluded that the average length of a cohabiting relationship that does not lead to marriage is 12 to 18 months. They're all saying the same thing. There's a problem here. It doesn't last. And people have sex outside of marriage. The problem is it's based on feelings, and feelings are unstable. They don't last. Thus, a relationship built on sensual feelings will not last unless those feelings are replaced by something stable. Just to give you an idea, how many unmarried couples can you name that you know have been together for 50 years? I don't know any. How many can you name, though, of married couples? I know several. My parents are one. There's a couple back here that's been married for 50 years. There you know another one. I got some really close friends out in Kentucky that have been married for well over 50 years. I know a lot of people that have been married over 50 years. I can't think of anybody who hasn't been married who's stayed together for 50 years. Let's chop it in half. How about 25 years? I know a lot of people who have been married 25 years. My wife and I being one of them. But I know oodles of people. I would have a hard time sitting down and listing them all. They've been married that long. Oh, do you think that maybe the couples that got married, they just happened to be blessed and with less problems? I think the people that have been married would tell you that. No, that's not true. Not even close. They'll be the first to tell you they've had their share of problems. Besides, why is it only the married who last and not the unmarried? According to Bumpus and Sweet in 1989, long-term cohabiting relationships in America are far rarer than successful marriages. And we'll emphasize far rarer. It's because of the commitment married couples have to make in their relationship. They made a commitment, a covenant to each other. It keeps them together long enough that for the most part, they work out the problems. It helps them get through some of the rough times so they hold together long enough to work the problems out. Those who have been married or have not been married don't realize what they're missing in the relationship because they've never had it. It's easy to be together when nothing's going wrong. After all, this young lady is only 21. I doubt she's been with this boyfriend very long. And it's easy when nothing particularly is going wrong at the moment, and you're focused on your senses to think, well, nothing's ever going to go wrong. And eventually reality intrudes itself on the relationship. Because feelings are so important in these relationships, they tend to fade when reality hits. Or they get distracted because of problems. And so the couple then tries to recreate the titillating feelings that were early on in the relationship, and it doesn't seem to work. Because part of the reason they had those titillating feelings is because of the newness of the relationship, and now it's old. How do you recreate something that in part was exciting because it was new? And when they fail in part to recreate those feelings, they go looking for those sensual feelings elsewhere. And, there's some exciting sensual feelings with somebody else. Why is that? Well, it's new again. Well, I must have fallen out of love with that other person, and I'm in love with this one now for real. That's why people who are unmarried bounce from partner to partner to partner to partner, and why it doesn't last. Again, Bumpus in 1994 stated that within the first 2 years, approximately 29% of cohabiting couples separate, compared to only 9% of married couples. That's quite a contrast. Cohabiting couples have a rate of separation that is 5 times that of married couples. And in the event of separation, cohabitors have a rate of reconciliation that's only 1/3 as high as married couples. Married couples, at least for the most part, try to put it back together. Only 1/3 of unmarried couples even try, compared to the married couples. Contrast this to what we find about married love in Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon, chapter 8. This is the way it's supposed to be in marriage. Song of Solomon, chapter 8, starting with verse 6. Put me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, and jealousy as severe as Sheol. Its flashes are the flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, nor will rivers overflow it. If a man were to give all the riches of his house for love, it would be utterly despised. You can't stop real love. You can't stop married love. That's the attitude. To contrast that to unmarried sex, here's one statement in Proverbs chapter 5. Talking about the immoral woman. In Proverbs 5, verse 6, she does not ponder the path of life. Her ways are unstable. She does not know it. That is the problem. When people build relationships on feelings, it's unstable. And they don't know it. Well, there's another problem. And Paul warns about this in regards to prostitution, but we can generalize it. The problem is it prevents true love from developing. Take a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, starting with verse 15. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take away the members of Christ and make them members of a harlot? May it never be. Or do you not know that the one who joins himself to a harlot is one body with her? For he says the two will become one flesh. But the one who joins himself to the Lord is one spirit with him. Flee sexual immorality. Every other sin that a man commits is outside the body, but the immoral man sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, from whom you have from God, and that you're not your own? For you've been bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body. What Paul is saying is that sex creates a bond between man and woman. But when that bond is formed in an unstable relationship like prostitution, outside of marriage, it damages the person's ability to form and keep relationships. In fact, men notice this. According to Seltzer in 2000, within 5 years of the beginning of a cohabiting relationship, more than half of those relationships will end if the couple had been married even if the couple had been married during that time. If somebody starts out with living together outside of marriage, having sex outside of marriage, within 5 years, half of those relationships will end, even if they do get married. It's higher than the divorce rate. Another one, the risk of divorce after living together is 40 to 85% higher than the risk of divorce after not living together. In other words, those who live together before marriage are almost twice as likely to divorce as those who have not lived together before marriage. And by the way, that one is in Bumpus and Sweet's 1995 survey, Hall and Zeal's 1995 survey, Rocker's, Stantold, Morgan, and Russell's 1993 survey, DeMorris and Rail's 1992 survey, and Glenn's survey in 1990. There's 5 different ones that came to exactly the same conclusion. Why is it? See, sex without marriage damages a person's ability to truly love, to form a relationship. Because what ends up happening is you form a relationship bond with somebody, and that because it's unstable, it breaks. And what happens when it breaks? Anybody remember their first crush on somebody? You still remember it because it hurt when it broke. You add sex into that mix, and it really hurts. People feel that's why it gets large suicide rates among teenagers sometimes. It really hurts. But they go and find somebody else to ease the hurt. But of course that breaks up. And that hurts too, but not quite as bad as the first one. And you find somebody else, and then it ends up breaking up, and that hurts. And somebody else, and that hurts. And after a while you get to the point where you're saying, hey, I'm just going to put a wall here between me and that other person because it hurts every time we break up, and I know it's bound to break up anyway, so... And guess what happens? You start, whenever you're having a relationship with somebody, you put a wall there because you know that person's going to hurt your feelings. And that's what Paul was talking about. Even though he was talking about men having relationships with harlots. He starts talking about it interferes with your relationship with Christ. Because you start treating everybody as if they're out to get you. And they're going to hurt you eventually, so I'm going to keep a barrier between me and you. And then true love can't form. Oh, people call sexual feelings and sexual acts love.